Welcome to Talks with the Invisible Gardener. I'm Andy Lopez, your host. This is where we dig into soil health and learn how to grow smarter organically. Ready to clean up your garden and the planet? Let's go. Don't panic, it's organic. Hey everybody, welcome back. I have a surprise for you today. I like to talk a lot about biology, the soil biology. So guess what? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to cover it in deep. I think you have to say we're going to dive deep, and I'm going to show you what I have learned through all of my years of doing this. So let's get started. So it's going to be on soil biology, right? And I thank Ken for doing this because I was calling him Micro for years. Now I'm doing a show with him because it's all about the soil biology. So the word soil biology explains it to people. They see that and they go, well, that has to do with something living in the soil, right? So here's what I've learned. Okay, so the basic understanding of soil structure, right, and is important for many different reasons, and those things you should figure out in terms of you should know that, and that's not what I'm going to be talking to you about. So what I mean to say is that in gardening, you have to amend the soil. You have to do all kinds of things to it to fluff it up and provide the nutrients and trace minerals and a bunch of other things. And those things I can go over more with you down the road because it's basically an organic gardening class, how to do the class. This is about soil biology. So in talking about soil structure, and when I talk about soil biology, I want you to understand that soil structure, you think of it as the condo or the workshop or the little underground city, and the city has buildings, right? The buildings. I like to look at it as the buildings. So in soil biology, just think of an army. And everybody's specialized in different things, and they all have different buildings that they work in. So that's why it's important to understand soil structure, aside from everything that has to do with, watering and mulching and those things. Okay, so when you think of that, the soil organic matter is like the frame or whatever it is the building is being made of, right? So when you're looking at as a soil biology living in a factory, the factory will be made of different materials. These materials are basically they come from the plant, right? Decomposed plant and animal materials. See, so it's really cool that the structure that they're working come from the natural resources that the Gaia gives to them. So microbial diversity. So in other words, soil biology. This is a very good word I've been using almost all my life, pretty much, the microbial diversity. But soil biology is exactly that, right? It translates as soil biology means more than one living things. It means a diversity of living things. And nature, and she's so cool, she doesn't just have an army of painters or an army of gardeners or an army of warriors. An army has everything in it that needs to sustain itself to produce and to survive and win the war, right? When they go to another country, they have a little bit of everything from doctors to, of course, nurses, and they have cooks, and they have, all kinds of things, all specializing in different things. Together, they compose the army, right? And this is how, when it says suppress pathogens that promote nutrition cycling, that's exactly what they do. They are specialized. The biology is specialized to do certain things. There's biology that will provide nutrition. There's biology that will build the actual cells, just like in the human body. So for me, I have a understanding about my body and my garden, because it's really the same thing, slightly from a different point of view, and it's been converted from the soil biology to human biology, the bioneme. And so I understand about how in nature, how can the biology suppress pathogens, right? Or how they can promote nutrient recycling or cycling, okay? And it has a lot to do with, how the structure is built, how the structures function. My biology is a structure. And when I eat, things have to happen in a certain way for me to survive and live. The same thing with the plants, and the same thing in the soil. So that's what the microbial diversity really is all about. It's really all about a diversity of different specialists doing their thing. And together, this army is amazing. Okay, so when we talk about nutrient availability, it, it's, it has to do with the soil biology. That is what's making the nutrition available. If you don't have any soil biology, you can have all the nitrogen you want to, all the potassium, everything could be there. It's not going to work. The plants are going to die of hunger, just like us. If we don't have our stomach working, an example is that the astronauts, when they go up to space, they don't have a garden, right? So they basically are eating things that are made for them to squeeze and eat, right? And they find that sooner or later they get sick because you have to eat through your stomach. You really do, because your stomach breaks everything down and passes it around to what it needs. When you get nutrition, it takes out the iron, the magnesium, all these things, it sends them to the right places that they then use it. And so the same thing happens with the soil. And so if you don't have the biology to make the nutrient available, it doesn't work. A friend of mine says it's not what you eat, it's what you can absorb. The way you absorb it is through the biology. It's the biology that passes it on to you. So you can then use it. And then the soil pH is really interesting. I think we're going to be doing a show. I think I've done several shows on the relationship between the pH of the human body and the pH of the soil. The fact that we have a pH level at all, that is very interesting, right? And so the pH tells you basically, they're a little different. I think the pH of the human body is 4.3, somewhere in there, 4.3, 4.5. And that's the blood pH level, okay? In a plant, it's not that you don't do the pH level of the plant, you do the pH level of the soil. And there's many reasons why that pH level is very, very important. Just like in our body, different pH levels could mean different things. So when we stick to the garden and we stick to the soil pH, the biology that we want to talk about, that I talk about all the time, the specific biology, live in a certain pH range. And that's 6.8 to 7.2. Very rarely do they go. There are different types of biology go above those levels. If you're in a desert, or you live in an environment where the pH level is normally high, you'll have a specific type of biology grow there. But the kind of biology that I like to incorporate into people's properties. I'll give you an example. So here in California, the clay soil is alkaline. That means that it has a very high pH, 7.2, 7.4, right? 7.5. And so in that level, in that area, it does not have the type of biology that I want to incorporate into that person's property. The reason why I want that biology in that person's property is because they call me, they say, but these trees are sick, has a disease, this plant has a disease, or this tree has a disease. It has a disease because it's not getting the proper nutrition that the soil biology can give it. In other words, the soil biology is not there to give them the proper nutrition they need. You can go to the store and you can buy fertilizers, even organic fertilizers, but chemical fertilizers are specifically bad. But either one, it won't work unless you have soil biology there. The chemicals one, of course, don't work because the chemical ones kill the soil biology. And so it's a very different type of fertilization that you're giving your plants. It's like, I call it cocaine for the soil. I shouldn't be saying that because that's basically what you think about it, because it's really a drug. It's a drug. It's not food, and this causes stress. The nitrogen, all these different things that we make and call it a fertilization is not the actual form that Mother Nature makes it for you. You know that plants don't need nitrogen to get it from the air. And so you can buy this nitrogen, it's like urea, U-R-E-A. And urea is based upon urine from animals, and that has the nitrogen in it. You know how much nitrogen your urine has for an animal? 0.0002. nitrogen, 0.0002%. And it's not just that, it has thousands, if not billions, of other kinds of nutrients in that liquid. Whereas chemical fertilizer will have maybe, you should say if it's a 20-20-20, that means it's 20% nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And that's it. May have something else in there, usually copper, iron, a couple other things. But you need 96 different trace minerals to make it work. And this is not food. So the real food, there's a big difference between the food that Mother Nature makes through their biology, right? And the food that we want to call food that we give to our plants, just like in our bodies. There's a big difference when I go eat organically grown food and chemically grown food. Big difference. The difference right off the bat is, of course, the pesticides. And it's not, we have more chemicals over here. It's clean over here. But the real difference is I am not going to be getting all the trace minerals I need if I eat the chemically grown way. Because you can't. What you put in is what you get out. What you get out of what you put in, right? You can't. Even if you were to be a chemist and say, I know how to get 96 trace minerals, which you can't. Part of the secret, I'll tell you later on about why this chemist cannot get the 96. You may get 90, but you won't be able to create the other 6. I just told the secret away, if you follow what I'm talking about. So the soil pH comes down to when you're doing a garden, you want to get that pH in a certain level. The plants, by the way, that's why they do better in that pH. 6.8 is a perfect pH for your garden. 6.8 is a perfect pH for your fruit trees, for your lawn, for your roses. All these things do really, really well at that pH level because all the trace minerals, all the biology is there. Now, I shouldn't say all the trace minerals because normally the way it works, the way it used to work, okay, is that Mother Nature would recycle everything throughout the earth. That way, you always were never missing the trace minerals. You have volcanoes blowing up, throwing stuff around. You have animals dying all over the place. Lots of all the different sources of trace minerals. The way I get sources of trace mineral, one of the most common ways I get it is using various different animals in the composting process. Because these different animals pull up different trace minerals. The same thing when I learned with the biodynamic system, weeds pull up different trace minerals. So, and usually I like telling people weeds are Mother Nature's medicine. So when you see a weed growing, you take a picture, I tell you what it is. It'll say rich in iron. What Mother Nature is saying, it told that weed to pull the iron. That weed pulls the iron up, and when it dies, it puts the iron up there, made available for people. Isn't that cool? And unfortunately, we might have weeds growing in our body to pull stuff up. See, but so that's why the pH is very important. Okay, so when you want to that's what the show is about, really. The show is about telling you how to increase your soil biology, telling you that this is very important. This is the most important thing that I can teach in my whole lifetime, this thing right here, because this is it. This is the key to you having a beautiful, amazing garden. So there are erosion and compaction is a basic. And the only reason why you have erosion and compaction is because you're not paying attention to the soil biology. In nature, you have very little erosion and very little compaction because it doesn't work that way. Only when the humankind gets involved, do you have that. That basically means you didn't set up your garden right. You didn't build your structure right. You didn't build the city right that the soil biology lives in, right? And so if they're happy and they're growing and they're working, that's a healthy soil, living soil. But so you basically have to understand that when you have erosion, you have compaction, no air goes down there. You're not going to find a single worm down there, right? So that's why it's very important because you have to have, this is like the foundation for the biology to live in. Okay, you can move in structures, but by moving structures, I basically mean you add compost, you add organic matter, whether it be, you're constantly grinding up leaves. People take stuff out of the way. They rake everything up and haul it away. Well, Mother Nature's trying to make soil with that because it decomposes and it breaks down. The more biology you have, the faster these things happen, and the faster they decompose, the faster they start to make soil. And so you have to understand the cycle that we're going through here, or rather we're not going through, because Mother Nature normally has this cycle going on. So you have to get on board with the cycling, how this works, and be a part of the system that you're helping to create more and more soil all the time. And it's actually there's something very important. I'll tell it to you as soon as I get to the end here, because that's something that's not even on here, and it's a secret. I'm going to tell it to you. So these are some of the basics, the things that you do in terms of gardening. A cover crop is basically something that you plant in the ground, that it returns the soil biology to the ground. And if you'll learn that different kinds of plants will put more in than they take out. They're legume, they provide nitrogen of fixation for the root systems of the plants. They're different plants that when you plant as a cover crop, they basically turn the soil down to that pH level. They bring the soil down to the 6.8. So if your soil is 7.2, 7.4, there are many things you can plant, because there's one way, there are several ways to do it, but the way ideally is the way the Mother Nature makes it slow and steady, not fast. You know what? There's no way you can convert toxic soils for organic soil in 3 years. There's no way it can be done. You're lucky if you can do it in 10 years. And so there are plants you can grow, but basically the cover crop, but one of the things you do is you don't even harvest it. A lot of times you just turn them over, let them, let them decompose down. When I have a vegetable garden, my vegetable garden the last one I had 10 raised beds. So 2 of those raised beds were always growing something green. I call it green cover crop or green manure. So one year I would have peanuts growing in one. And another year I would have in a different, so I rotate the raised beds. So one year I had one growing peanuts, another year, I think the second raised bed, I would have probably something like anything that I can grow. I learned I can grow, mints, I can grow herbs. There's lots of really interesting things that you can grow that will return to the soil. And the nasturtiums are really very good. There's tons of those. I'm gonna have to do a show where I can show you what these cover crops are. And a lot of these cover crops are also basic plants that attract bugs to them instead of some marigolds, for example, are very good for that. It's actually another name for it. It's called companion planting. So when you plant something, it benefits the rest of the plants. One of my favorite things to plant next to almost everything is garlic. So garlic is absorbed by the plant, smells like garlic, bugs stay away. And so this has to do with crop rotation. I just said it before. Basically, the idea is that this is like a standard practice, and I'll tell you something, you don't really need to do crop rotation if you're constantly keeping your soil alive. You don't have to worry about. The reason why you do crop rotation is because you're not paying attention to the health of your soil. If your soil is healthy and living and functioning, and you're adding constantly new soil and new matter to it, you don't have to rotate the soil, because you're increasing new soil, you're bringing live things all the time. It only happens when you do not pay attention to the health of your soil. You grow something, and then normally what you do is, okay, I'm going to plant something else in there and that has a different requirement, maybe survive a little longer. But sooner or later, you're going to have to pay attention to the health of the soil. You can only keep bringing in plants for so long, and then you're going to go, well, this isn't working anymore. We have to rototill it, add more stuff, more fertilizer, whatever it is, if you're using chemicals. But if you're using the organic system, the soil health builds up it keeps building up and building up and building up. Okay? And that's why you do crop rotation. So you don't have to do crop rotation if you learn how to keep your soil super healthy, like in your stomach. If you keep your stomach healthy, you don't have to rotate your soil, your stomach, do you? You keep it. So that's what crop rotation is all about. It's helping you to keep going longer, but ideally you want to plant things that provide more biology to them. Okay? So I think I just went by one. So biodiversity is this says it by itself, because the way I look at it is, in Mother Nature, she doesn't do anything in straight lines. And on top of that, she doesn't plant the same thing in straight lines. So when I started growing, I have a lot of friends who are also gardeners, and these people love. There's one of them. I'm not going to give the name of the method of gardening, but basically you measure everything. You tie these lines in the little boxes, and within each box is when you grow things, and you have a very specific distance between each plant and the different variety of plants in a certain area. So but Mother Nature doesn't do that. So like in the soil biology, you don't have one specific microorganism. You have a biodiversity of microorganisms. You have tons and tons. You have so many microorganisms you can't even name them all. There are more biology in a little grain of sand than there are stars in the skies. That's That's biodiversity. It's the same thing with the human race. No, people are all very different animals. There is a soil biodiversity on the whole earth, right? So that's very important because you follow the way Mother Nature makes it. That's how you get all these different trace minerals spread around. If you only have one type of plant, that plant is not going to also going. It only has certain biology that come with that plant. The way that works in nature, it's a group. It's like a community of biology, and they all provide different uh, minerals, different food to the plants, right? That's why you want, like for dinner, you want to have a wide range of food rather than just one type of food. Does that make sense? So I'm going to tell you now what I've discovered that absolutely necessary for you. Because if you don't want to get this last part, no matter what you do before, what we talked about, all the different soil biologies and how to keep them going and all this stuff and feeding them and the diversity and what they do. If you don't get this section now, which I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to get very far. And that is city water kills soil biology. You hear what I said? City water kills biology. That's what it's made for. They don't want things growing in there in your water. Unfortunately, the soil is the opposite. The soil does. That's why when you buy a water filter for you to drink from, you don't want to be drinking that stuff, do you? Well, you don't want to force your soil to be drinking that because it kills them. It will kill them dead, and you're going to have to be figuring out why is there, why do I have this problem with my plant? Why it doesn't work? You would say, gee, look, the worms. This is all. No, you have to get a whole property filtration system. Seriously, you can buy a garden filter that you can hook up to the hose, but if you have sprinkler systems, drip systems, they have to be clean water. And one of the things that you can do too, besides the whole property filtration system, you take it one step further. It's called fertigation. Fertigation is made in mind for fertilizer and irrigation. The two together is called fertigation. And it's usually made for chemicals, right? Because you put the chemicals in one unit, it hooks up to the water, and the water goes through it a little bit and siphons out a little bit of the chemicals and goes out into the property. So you want to take it one step further, and in that unit's where you want to put your biology. You can put compost tea in there, you could put liquid seaweed in there, you can put fish emulsion in there. Lots of things you can do. What you have to do is that unit is made specifically is a ratio of the chemical to water, 1,000 to 1. That's the ratio. And what you have to do is change it to 100 to 1. And there are many ways to do that. What I would do is talk to the company and say, look, I'm buying this, but I'm using it for organics. I would like you to do this for me. And he said, well, if I do it and I break the warranty, blah, 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 and they may not do it. But so what I did was basically it's a unit that has liquid goes in, and at the top where it's hooked into it, there are two lines, and one hooks into the front part of the PVC line. The other hooks into the second part. When the water flows through it, it causes a siphon. It siphons out whatever's in this tank, and the proportion is into the water, 1,000 to 1. So what I did was I looked at there's a little hole that the water comes in and goes out, right? And so that was really, 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 really very small. So what I did was I got a a little drill. Don't do it with the drill bit because I did it. This stuff is made out of plastic, and if you go, it melts it, right? Oh, look, I just melted it. So you basically you get the size, the next size up. You'll get a drill bit that's just a little bit bigger because you have to remember the unit has a very thin wall, and if you break it, you break it. I would buy 2 or 3 of them just in case so you learn how to do it. But you basically get a pliers and you turn it slowly, pull that, clean it out so that that opening there where the water flows, it's greater. And then that's roughly 100 to 1, and that's what you want. And that'll siphon out that liquid that you put in there. There's so many different great liquids you can put in there that will siphon it out, that will keep the biology going, right? And you can also use it that way. If you make compost tea, it works really, really good. So what I done in the past, and I swear I have done it, I get compost, I put it in the pantyhose, tied up into like a tea bag, put it into the unit, fill the unit up with, unfortunately, well, by now you should have a whole proper filtration system. So it doesn't matter the water. But when you do fill it up, make sure you fill it up with the clean water. Make sure that the whole thing has water and not air, because when it compresses, you open up, air compresses and it's very dangerous. You have to basically fill it up completely with water. It tells you instructions on there. And that unit will last you for about a month. Every month you unscrew, you take the pressure, turn the system off, release the pressure, unscrew the top, put a new tea bag in there, or you can use lots and lots of different liquids that you can pour in there that you can use. That will increase your biology at the same time. So you solve the major problem of killing your biology on a regular basis and providing biology on a regular basis. Even if you are using the filter for the property, the soil biology is always being intact with various different toxins in the air, all kinds of things that can happen. And so it's a normal process. Remember, in nature, you have animals that come around, they die, they poop, they do all kinds of things. It's constantly being regenerated. So you don't have that on your property. It doesn't work if you have your dog poop, right? If you have rabbits, cool. If you have a farm, it's better because you have all these animals. You learn how to make compost. What I would suggest is that you learn how to make compost or learn how to do a worm farm, because you want to have something source that constantly supplying the biology. So I think that's the show for today. Please go to my website, invisiblegardener.com. And if you're here on whatever channel you're in, just do the like, share, and follow. I have a newsletter I would love for you to get, because it has lots of information in there. I have a book called Don't Panic, It's Organic. The ebook can show you how to get that version for free, and it's only be available through this show. Otherwise, on the website, you can buy the book. It's called Don't Panic, It's Organic. I also have my Natural Pest Control Alternatives to Chemicals for the Home and Garden. Both are ebooks. So I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Happy growing now. Bye. It's been great. I'm Andy Lopez. Thanks for hanging out with me on Talks with the Invisible Gardener. If you like what you heard, hit follow, drop a like, and leave a comment. I actually read them. Want more good dirt? Visit invisiblegardener.com. And remember, don't panic, it's organic.